Hello, hello, hello. It's Jacquette Timmons here, and you are used to me coming to this space and sharing a message, a tip, or a tool about the behavioral side of personal finance. After all, I am the money and psychology person, committed to always making sure that you never forget that money is never just about money, but also always reminding you that when it comes to your experience with money, it is always a combination of the mechanics or the numbers of money, plus and on the other side of that plus side are the psychology and the emotions of money. But today, I am here because I want to tell you about something that I am deeply passionate about and to ask for your help. You see, if you're like me, you probably appreciate beauty. You probably appreciate it as well. And if you cross the line with me, you might even agree that when you combine the two, you can bring about incredible social change. So I wanted to introduce you to one of my favorite organizations, the Laundromat Project. I'm on their board. I have been on their board for a really long time. And this time of the year, we're kicking off our annual year-end giving process. And I'm coming to all of my peeps to ask them to consider contributing $25 by December 21st. And my personal goal with this initiative is that as a board member, through this medium, I'll be able to raise $4,000. And how awesome would that be? And I figured, since I'm coming to you for the very first time to ask you to support an organization that is dear to me, and by the way, it's a 501c3, so your contribution is fully tax deductible, what better way of giving you some insight about the work that it does, its vision, and its impact than by introducing you to its leadership? So with that, I'm delighted to introduce you to the founder and the current board chair, Risa Wilson, and Kemi Ilasanmi, the organization's first full-time executive director, both of whom are joining me from their hotel room, not together like, personally, but on a business trip. So that they can tell us about the organization and what inspired, in Risa's case, her to found it, and what inspired, in Kemi's case, her to take on the role of executive director. So, Risa and Kemi, thank you so much for being with me via Skype. Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, Risa, let's start with you. You founded the Laundromat Project now, I guess, 10 years ago? A little bit more?
Almost 13 years ago.
13 years ago. Okay.
This is really a vision that began in '99, and I really charted my career around starting this organization. And the fundamental principle, though our mission is about making art accessible and bringing it to communities that would not normally access it, by bringing art into laundromats, the fundamental goal is really about the power of creativity, the power of being able to harness your own vision, and wanting to make sure that that was broadly available, that it was available in particular to people who had been disenfranchised from tapping into that power, and that it would be applied in a way that would build community, build equity, and build change.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Kemi, you are the organization's first full-time executive director. So what does that feel like, and what inspired you to want to step into that role? Because that's a pretty significant role to step into.
It feels incredible. It feels like I'm exactly where I want to be and should be right at this moment in my life and in my career, but very much in my life. Because the work that Risa just described, that the Laundromat Project does, and what our ultimate goal is to bring creativity as a powerful force into communities and meet people where they live, and work in neighborhoods and turn strangers into neighbors, and really connect artists as assets in their community. All of these themes were things that I felt incredibly passionate about, and in fact served on the board of the Laundromat Project from 2006 to 2010. Unexpectedly, but incredibly happily, 2 years later, I've come back in an incredibly new role, which represents an incredible moment of growth and vision for the organization. And I feel honored and empowered and excited and inspired to be able to kind of step into this moment and
continue to move the organization forward with you, Jacquette, you, Risa, and as board chair now, and the rest of the board, and all the community of artists, volunteers, etc. That I really think of it as a people-powered organization.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. And one of the things that I really appreciate about the growth, and we had this conversation offline, is just the migration from the organization being, a very grassroots oriented organization to one that, quite frankly, is being sought out to contribute to the larger discussion that's going on in our community, whether it's local or national or even internationally, with regards to, again, art, beauty, and social change. So I thought what would be a really interesting way of giving people a little bit of insight into the work of the organization, the impact that it makes, and the overall vision is if we did a little bit of a lightning round session. And so I'm just going to throw out a word, and either of you can choose who wants to respond to which. But we just have about 10 or so words, and I just want to get your thoughts to it. And it can either be a one-word response, or it could even be a full sentence. But we'll start with this. When I say culture, what comes to mind?
Power.
When I say power, what comes to mind?
People.
What about dissent?
Necessary in a democracy. Civil society that we are working to build.
Absolutely.
And then and how does art play a role in that?
I think that art is a practice space for negotiating your vision, and part of that is being able to talk back to what you know, and offer an alternative view altogether.
And then, we have all used the word, the three of us have all used the word vision quite a bit, but how would you actually define it? Or how would you define it through the lens of the work that the Laundromat Project does?
I think of it very much as a reimagining, and just bounce what Risa was just saying, this sense of being able to create something new and an alternative vision. So just quick snippet of some of the things that the Laundromat Project artists have done in laundromats. Just this year, we had an artist who held yoga classes in her local laundromat in Jackson Heights in Queens, and really wanted to share this, what she sees to be kind of as an essential art and sense of being with her neighbors. And that's not something you expect. And then she created body prints out of those, those collective moments with her neighbors. And she had 5-year-olds there, and she had 60-year-olds there. Some people, wearing saris, and some people wearing yoga pants.
Right.
That's an moment. We had another, and that was Ron's song. We had Hector Canonge in Washington Heights last year, or in Inwood actually, who held ESL classes for his neighbors who were mostly Spanish speaking, but didn't have the time to learn English even though they wanted to because they work all day long.
Right.
That's
Right.
They work.
Right.
And so we define art incredibly broadly and incredibly beautifully, I think, and allow a lot of space for reimagining what art is, what can happen in a laundromat, how we connect to our neighbors, what our neighbors can do, and all of that. So that's the vision, the sense of creating and dreaming in a new world and making it a reality.
That's fantastic. I'm sorry, what were you going to say, Risa?
And this is why Kemi is a full-time executive.
Precisely. It works out perfectly. Okay. What about revolution? Going on with my little list of the comments here. What about revolution?
So at our potluck this year, there was a quote by Tufar, and I cannot think of Tufar's last name, Muhammad, who talks about the revolution will not be televised, but it will be plotted over collard greens. That it around the kitchen table. And so the Laundromat Project is very much about we are each implicated in the change that we want to see in the world. And that can happen very much in our own homes, our own communities, and our own neighborhoods. And it requires a little bit of courage. And what artists offer very generously is that prompt for us to have the courage to talk to each other, to negotiate some difficult issues, difficult conversations, or sometimes just to step out of our norms and be inspired and be reminded that there is more possible.
Right. Yeah, I love that. What about strategy?
absolutely embedded in all that we are doing,
Mm-hmm.
From the way that we have organized ourselves in terms of staff,
Mm-hmm.
to the way that we have understood our work as part of art, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but also part of racial justice, also part of social equity, cultural equity, that we really understand that a small act, like setting up a table and
Mm-hmm.
offering a drop-in art making class in front
Mm-hmm.
of a laundromat, is bigger than just the delight and joy of that
Mm-hmm.
art making moment,
Mm-hmm.
but is part of a system of creating relationships, of building social capital, of introducing ideas that aren't part of conversations that are happening in mainstream institutions,
Mm-hmm.
adopting what has been our norm to make possible something better.
So what about when you think about art and policy making?
So one of the things that I dream of when I think about some of the ways that the work we do can be impactful in a long-term way is that what would it look like if artists were invited to were considered to be necessary, essential voices and visionaries in the context of every policy meeting that was happening across the city, or every community board meeting that was happening in neighborhoods around the world. And there are communities that really do value, and cultures that have traditionally really valued what artists can bring, and the expansive notion of the world and self and communities that artists can bring into a room
Mm-hmm.
and talk in others. So it's not like just it's not just that they get to share their vision, but they help unlock visions for everyone else, and provide alternate pathways to think about where we live and who we are and what we do and what we want our communities to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I do want to help build a world where artists are that essential voice, and you don't start any conversation without wondering where are the thinkers, where are the creative folks, where are the doers, and what can they add to this conversation that we might not have thought of, but that will really lead us forward in an interesting, fascinating, and hopefully joyful way. And when they're asking difficult questions, artists have a real knack for doing.
Mm-hmm. And Jacquette, just to build on that, one of the things we talk about is creating citizen artists
Mm-hmm.
and creating citizens. And so that integrated piece, this idea that creativity is in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that artists are this kind of separate foreign class.
Mm-hmm.
More that these are folks who have made it their profession
Mm-hmm.
to
Right.
tap into creativity. And so we then get to benefit that as their neighbors in
Mm-hmm.
learning how to do that ourselves, or learning how to make that normal, or learning how to do that better or more often.
This whole idea of excellence versus access, how do you respond to that?
There is no either or. There is absolutely no either or. It is a false tension. It's a false framework. Art that is offered as a gift, art that is a product of generosity, should be excellent. That's part of the gift. You don't show up on someone's door and offer them your trash. You offer them your best.
Right.
And the degree to which we actually are resourced to do this work is a degree to which we are able to help artists offer their best.
Well, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I really do hope that you will consider making a contribution of $25 before December 31st. And if that's not for you, you know what? You can still make a contribution by simply sharing the link to this video with your peeps, and hopefully your peeps and my peeps will all come together, and we'll make that goal of 160 people giving $25 so we can hit that $4,000 mark by the end of the year. Thank you so much again. I'm Jacquette Timmons, and again, I've been speaking with Risa Wilson, the founder and the current board chair of the Laundromat Project, and Kemi Ilasami, the current and the first executive director of the organization.